It was too quiet after the storm. Then came the sound, feet slapping against wet pavement, breathless and frantic. A boy, no older than 6, burst through the morning fog. His shirt was torn. His eyes wild. He collided with the soldier's knees, clutching his uniform like it was life itself. "They took her," the boy screamed, voice cracking. Silence dropped like a stone. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The boy's hand shook as he reached into his pocket. A necklace. A silver L. Cold. Dirty. Not his. The soldier's grip tightened. "Who?" he asked. No answer. Just fear. The shelter smelled of boiled rice and bleach. The kind of place stitched together in haste, plastic mats, folded blankets, hushed voices trying not to ask too much. He sat by the window, knees drawn up, a silent outline against the morning light. The soldier watched him from the hallway. The boy hadn't spoken since that first scream. No name, no age, no story. Just a stare that tunneled through whatever it landed on. A nurse tried again. "Sweetie, are you hungry?" No response. The soldier stepped in. The boy turned his head slightly, just enough. He knelt beside him, slow, like approaching a wounded animal. "I'm not here to make you talk," he said softly. "But I need to find her." The boy blinked. In his fingers, he held the silver L necklace. Rubbed the charm with his thumb until it shined dully in the dim light. On his other hand, bruises, fading, but still loud. Later, in the small medical room, he sat stiff as the doctor examined him. The soldier stood by the door, arms folded, watching every flinch, every twitch. "Shock," the doctor said under her breath. "And possibly something else." She held up a small flashlight, moved it side to side. The boy didn't react. "He's somewhere else," she murmured. Then, just as the room fell still, a sound. A soft tapping. Faint. Rhythmic. The soldier looked down. The boy's fingers were drumming gently on the metal cot. Not erratic. Not random. Tap. Tap. Pause. Tap. A pattern. "Does that mean something?" the soldier asked. The boy kept tapping. Then he whispered, eyes fixed on the ceiling. "I waited, but they didn't come." His voice was paper-thin. Like it had been folded up and hidden too long. The soldier took a step forward. "Who didn't come?" No reply. Only the tapping continued. That night, the boy refused a bed. He sat in the far corner of the shelter room, next to a stack of folded towels. The soldier sat across from him, both of them in the silence. He slid a tray toward the boy. Bread. A bit of rice. Water. The boy didn't touch it. Instead, he pulled a sheet of paper from his pocket. Crumpled. Water-stained. Unfolded it slowly, laid it flat on the ground. A drawing. Crayon, blue, black, red. 2 children holding hands. One with a ponytail. The other, smaller. A tall figure beside them, wearing something square on the chest. A badge? A patch? Above them, a red van. No windows. The soldier leaned in. "Is that her?" he asked, pointing to the girl. The boy nodded once. "And is this me?" he whispered, pointing to the tall figure. Another nod. "She knew I'd come." A tear welled in the soldier's eye, but the boy's face stayed blank. Still. Like he'd run out of room inside himself for crying. In the hallway, the shelter director approached. "Still won't tell us his name?" "No," the soldier replied. She sighed. "We can't file anything without it. No missing child reports, no matches. I don't care what we can't file, he said. We have a drawing. A necklace. A van. That's enough for me. He went back in. The boy was now curled under the table. The drawing beside him. The soldier crouched. I want to help her, he said. But I need your help too. Even a small thing. The boy looked up, eyes glassy. Then, reached for the necklace again. He held it up between them, letting it catch the flickering overhead light. And for the first time, his lips moved. But not a name. Just one word. Lily. That night, as the shelter dimmed to whispers and snores, the soldier sat awake beside the boy's corner. The tapping had stopped. The drawing folded under the boy's cheek. But the soldier's mind raced. A girl named Lily. A red van with no windows. A child who waited, and was never taken. Or worse, taken last. He looked at the boy again. Skin pale. Clothes too thin for the cold. Who leaves 2 children behind? And who only takes one? The soldier stared into the darkness. Something wasn't right. And in that silence, he swore he would find the answer. Even if no one else believed it mattered. Even if the world had already decided Lily was gone. He'd find her. Because someone had to. Morning light spilled through the windshield like a secret trying to be heard. The soldier drove slowly, scanning every address against the boy's drawing. The lines were crude, but intentional, each building drawn with a child's gravity, some with windows, others crossed out with red. But one stood apart. No windows. No roof. Just a dark square. He passed where the flood line had crept days earlier, now dried to a crust along fences and doors. Mud and debris clung to the curbs like forgotten lives. Then he saw it. An old brick building. No signage. Half the windows boarded. No X mark on the door. Rescue teams were ordered to mark each searched building, a slash for entered, crossed for cleared, sometimes a number of victims noted. This one was blank. Untouched. As if it didn't exist. He parked and stepped out. His boots sank slightly in the soaked gravel. The air was heavy, thick with rot and silence. He approached the door. Pried it open. Inside, stillness. No rats. No echoes. Just a hallway choked in dust and the scent of something stale, like forgotten plastic and rain. He moved slow, flashlight in hand. The beam danced across peeling wallpaper, water stains on the floor, a lone child's shoe against the wall. His throat tightened. Down the hall, a door was ajar. He pushed it gently. A room. 4 cinderblock walls. One small, high window. A single mattress on the floor. A cracked bowl. And on the far wall, scratched deep into the paint, 2 letters. S+L. His breath caught. The necklace. He stepped closer, knelt. Below the initials, faint lines, like a child's attempt at drawing a sun. But each ray ended in a different direction, some bent, others straight. Like she was trying to say, "We're not done." The soldier's fingers trembled as he touched the carving. She'd been here. Back at the truck, he opened his map, the official disaster relief grid. Every zone marked, color-coded. Streets numbered. Buildings catalogued. This one didn't exist. He checked 3 times. The lot was labeled as vacant ground. His eyes narrowed. He pulled out the boy's drawing again. Lily had drawn it clearly. The square. The van. The figure in uniform. She knew no one would look here. She was right. That night, the soldier sat with the boy again. Spread the map between them. "Show me where this is," he said softly. The boy hesitated. Then pointed. Not to the map, but to the blank space beside a river mark. Right where the building stood. The soldier pressed his pen down. Drew a tiny square. "Why didn't they search here?" he murmured. The boy looked up, finally locking eyes. Then he said it, like reciting something he'd been told to memorize. "Some places aren't worth the risk." The soldier froze. "Who said that?" The boy looked away. Silence. But his fingers began tapping again. This time, slower. Tap. Tap. Pause. Tap. The soldier felt the weight settle on his chest. This wasn't just an oversight. This was intentional. Later, in his quarters, he replayed every call log. Pulled up GPS records. The rescue team assigned to that area reported a full sweep. But when he checked the timestamps, something didn't line up. Their report was filed 2 hours before the team was even dispatched. He stared at the screen. 2 hours early. The file said, "Building vacant. Ground unstable. Not marked safe due to erosion." But he'd just walked inside it. No damage. No structural failure. Just, abandoned. Or hidden. He picked up the phone. "Command, I need confirmation on a sweep at 213 West Crossing. You have that on file?" Pause. Clicking keys. "No record of that address. It's not in our grid." He hung up. Looked at the necklace. Then the drawing. Then the initials in his notebook, S+L. The soldier knew one thing now. Lily wasn't just forgotten. She'd been erased. And whoever did it knew no one would come looking. But they were wrong. Because someone just had. The soldier sat alone in the shelter's office, bathed in the dull glow of a desk lamp. The building buzzed with quiet exhaustion, distant coughs, shuffling footsteps, the low hum of old fluorescent lights. On the table in front of him, stacks of forms. Rescue logs. Evacuation lists. Family unification records. And at the center, the boy's intake sheet. His fingers moved slowly, tracing the entries. Name, unknown. Age, approximate, 6 to 7. Found, near Eastbridge Sector, Zone 9. But under, family, a small, scrawled note in pen. Reported as evacuated. Family account closed. He circled it. Closed didn't make sense. Children don't walk out of closed accounts. He walked 2 blocks through the drizzle to the municipal data center. Flashing his credentials, he was let through to the back room, rows of gray cabinets and humming servers. "I need full evac documentation from the Eastbridge zone," he told the clerk. "Digital or hard copy?" "Both." The clerk raised an eyebrow but said nothing. A few minutes later, boxes were wheeled in. 2 thick folders marked, Family Unit/Eastbridge, Days 1 to 3. He dug through them, page by page. Finally, there. Last name, Warner. Members, 2 adults, 1 child. Evacuated, 3:46 p.m., Day 2. Method, personal vehicle, blue SUV. Status, cleared. He stared at the sheet. Then read it again. The timestamp was specific. The notes confident. Even listed the license plate. But something was wrong. Back at the shelter, he sat with the boy again. Opened the folder slowly. "Is this your family?" he asked, pointing to the names, Margaret and Daniel Warner. The boy didn't answer. But his hand tensed. The soldier tapped gently beside the photo attached, a fuzzy ID still from city records. The boy's eyes locked on it. And then, a small nod. "Yes," the soldier breathed. "Okay." He turned the page. "But this says they left, without you." The boy looked down. tapped his fingers. Once. Twice. Stopped. Then whispered. They didn't want to wait. The soldier stood in front of the emergency dispatch logs next. The screen showed all vehicle movements, tagged entries, and timestamps. He typed the Warner license plate. The log popped up. But instead of an exit timestamp at 3:46 p.m., the plate had pinged at 11:12 a.m. 4 hours earlier. 4 hours before the evacuation line even reached Eastbridge. He pulled up satellite routing maps. The SUV never came back. The soldier's pulse thudded in his ears. The evacuation time was forged. The family left early. Left before it was legal to move. Left without the boy. And still marked as complete. He brought this to the shelter director. These forms were altered, he said, spreading the pages on her desk. She looked uneasy. That's a serious accusation. I know. But this child was left behind. His sister was taken. And his parents, they got out before anyone else. The forms were doctored to close the case. She shook her head slowly. That doesn't make sense. Why would they? To cover their tracks. Maybe to protect custody. Or maybe something worse. She looked at the boy through the glass window. He was sitting still, fingers running along the drawing again. Always the drawing. I'll call social services, she said finally. But if this is real, it goes higher. He nodded. Then we go higher. Back in his bunk, the soldier stared at the forms again. Who filled them out? He looked at the signature at the bottom of the Warner report. A scribble. Barely legible. He grabbed other forms, comparing signatures across family accounts. Most were typed, clean, logged by staff. But 2 other entries shared the same scrawl. Same pen. Same ink. And both had something in common: early exits. Private vehicle. Evacuation time before authorization. Each one marked as account closed. He underlined them all. A pattern. Someone had been signing families out early, off the grid, and hiding the paper trail. And always the same hand. Always the same lie. He leaned back in his chair, eyes heavy with realization. They weren't just neglected. They were deliberately removed. Sanitized from the process like a smudge on glass. The soldier picked up the boy's drawing again. Traced the van. The uniformed figure. The missing windows. He whispered to himself. You weren't lost. They got rid of you. Outside, rain tapped gently on the shelter windows. Inside, the boy curled in sleep beside the table. And across the room, the soldier sat with papers spread like battlefield maps. Each one telling the same lie. Each one missing one name. But he'd found him. The boy with no name. And soon, they'd all know it. The sun was already behind the clouds when the soldier stepped out of the shelter. Everything felt quieter that morning. Even the crows on the wires didn't call. He walked toward the edge of the parking lot, past the yellow caution tape and the rows of recovery tents. His boots stopped in front of a dried patch of dirt where puddles once sat like glass. That's where the boy said it happened. That's where the van came. The boy had woken from a dream, crying. He wasn't the type to cry. All night, he'd just laid there, eyes open, hands still, lips moving without sound. But this time he said it clearly. They put her in the white van. No panic. Just a flat, empty sentence, like someone repeating something they wished they didn't remember. The soldier had written it down. White van. Uniform. Girl taken. He began digging through transport records. In theory, all authorized vehicles during the evacuation were marked, scanned in and out through RFID gates. But when he pulled the movement logs for day 3, the boy's timeline, there was a gap. Between 12:17 p.m. and 12:49 p.m., the gate logs at Eastbridge sector went blank. No entries. No exits. Just, missing. Like someone turned the system off. He checked camera feeds. One flickered. Street corner near 7th and Dryden. Grainy. Damaged by the flood. But there, at 12:26 p.m., a white van. No markings. No license plate visible. Slowing. Stopping. A door sliding open. And a figure, small, carried inside. Then gone. He printed the frame. Showed it to the boy. The child looked for a long time. Then pointed to the door. Lily. The soldier's stomach sank. Are you sure? The boy didn't speak. Just tapped his fingers. Once. Twice. Then stopped. That meant yes. He traced the van's likely route. It couldn't have come far during a lockdown. Only authorized vehicles would have made it through. So if this van wasn't authorized, someone let it in. Or worse, someone ordered it. He checked the list of all private contractors who had permits during the flood. Most were logistics. Medical transport. Volunteer aid. Only one stood out. Eastern Welfare Coordination Group. Name sounded noble. But he'd never seen them in person. He called their listed dispatch. Disconnected. He searched for their facility. The address was a warehouse, one that had burned in the flood's early days. Reported as storage only. No survivors listed. No victims listed. Just marked, destroyed. But he remembered the boy's words. They put her in the white van. She didn't go missing in a flood. She was taken. He printed every form he could find. Cross-referenced van logs. Compared contractor reports. And found something buried in a budget summary, one line, tiny. Emergency extraction, contract #E17, paid out day 5. No details. Just a $4,000 charge. Under, discretionary recovery. He looked closer. Authorized by, D. Warner. The name hit him like ice. Daniel Warner. The boy's father. Why would a man authorize a paid extraction, after already evacuating? Unless he hadn't left the child behind by mistake. Unless he wanted something cleaned up. The soldier felt the breath leave him. This wasn't just neglect. This was a transaction. He sat down beside the boy that evening. Showed him the contractor name. Did you ever see these letters? He asked. The boy squinted, reading slowly. Then pointed to the drawing again. Near the corner, almost invisible, written in faint pencil. EWCG. His small finger tapped it. Right under the van. She told me, he whispered. She said, if they take me, remember the letters. The soldier blinked back the weight in his throat. She knew they'd come. The boy nodded. Then whispered again. They said they were helpers, but they locked the door. He sent everything, every image, every receipt, every log, to an old contact in internal affairs. Encrypted. Subject line, unauthorized extraction, possible child trafficking, Eastbridge zone. He didn't expect a reply. But 3 hours later, a message came. Saw your files. We'll push upstairs. Be careful. You're not the first. His hands went still. Not the first. Which meant Lily wasn't the only one. Later that night, rain began to fall again. Light at first, like apologies. Then harder, steady and relentless. The boy didn't sleep. He sat drawing again. This time, the van was bigger. And in the back seat, a small window. A face looking out. Eyes wide. Hands pressed to glass. But behind her, a shadowed figure in a jacket. No face. No name. Just a shape. Watching her. The soldier sat in the hallway outside the boy's room. Back against the wall. Gun holstered. Phone in hand. And beside him, the printed image of the white van, frozen in time. He whispered to the ceiling. "Hold on, Lily. I know where you were. And I'm going to find out where you are." The warehouse sat quiet under the weight of rust and time. From the outside, it looked forgotten, an old sheet metal structure at the edge of the industrial district, its sign blown off, its windows like eyes covered in soot. But the soldier stood still across the street, watching. It wasn't the silence that unsettled him. It was the light. A faint, flickering blue from somewhere deep inside. Not enough to say, occupied. Just enough to say, someone was here, recently. He checked the file again. Contract #E17 listed this as the registered dispatch zone for Emergency Child Welfare Services. But according to city files, the building had burned. Photos in the report showed scorched beams, blackened floors, and the word "void" stamped across the entry log. Yet here it was. Whole. Standing. And very much not void. He stepped closer, boots crunching on gravel. No camera. No motion sensor. Just a heavy chain looped through the gate. But someone had clipped it recently, rusted ends lying like teeth in the dirt. He slipped through. Each step echoed. Inside, the smell hit him first. Not fire. Not rot. Bleach. And something underneath it, something faint and sour, like sweat soaked into plastic. He clicked his flashlight on. The beam sliced through the dark. Rows of crates. Torn banners that once read, "Welfare Supply Unit, Eastbridge Response." And in the far corner, a metal door. Painted white. His hand went to his sidearm. He stepped forward. The door had a keypad. Dusty, but functional. He entered the old contractor code, 9-1-7-2. Click. It opened. A staircase descended. Unlit. He went down slowly. Each step creaked like an old breath. At the bottom, the air changed. Cooler. And then he heard it. A soft sound. Like paper tearing. Or maybe, plastic moving. He turned the final corner. The room was sterile. Fluorescent tubes buzzed overhead, flickering in intervals. And in the middle, 3 hospital cots. Only one occupied. A girl. Lying still, arms by her side, for taped to her wrist. Hair matted. Face pale. But alive. The soldier's breath caught. He stepped closer. The girl's eyes fluttered. She blinked, groggily, staring at him as if seeing light for the first time in days. He knelt. "Lily?" She didn't answer. Just looked at him, too tired to flinch. Then her lip trembled. Not fear. Recognition. Behind him, a shuffle. He turned fast, gun raised. But no one. Just a chair. And beside it, a clipboard. He grabbed it. Medical intake logs. All unsigned. No dates. No names. Just numbers. 3 total. 1 crossed out. 2 still active. He flipped the page. Under, subject 12, F. Sedated twice daily. Compliant. No identification found. Await next transfer. He stared at the last line. Location change scheduled, August 4th. Tomorrow. He carried her, wrapped in his jacket. She didn't speak, but her fingers found his collar, clung gently, like she remembered how to hold on. Up the stairs. Out the door. Through the rain. He didn't look back. Didn't care what cameras might have seen. Didn't wait for permission. He brought her to the only place that still felt human. The shelter. They made space in the nurses' quarters. Hooked her to fluids. She didn't cry. Didn't ask where her parents were. Just stared at the boy. The boy who hadn't spoken since she left. Now he rose. Crossed the room. And hugged her, shaking. Her small arms wrapped around him, mechanical at first. Then slowly. Genuine. And for the first time since the flood. The boy spoke clearly. I told you I'd wait. The soldier stepped back, throat tight. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, light touching the puddles like it was apologizing. The nightmare wasn't over. But one piece had been pulled back from its edge. He opened his notebook. Wrote a line. Lily Warner, found. Alive. August 3rd. Unknown captivity, 8 days. He paused. Then added. The building exists. They lied. And underlined it. Twice Lily sat in the corner of the infirmary, back against the wall, blanket drawn up to her chin. The others had gone to bed. The boy slept beside her, curled like a question mark. But she stayed awake. Eyes open. Hand unmoving. Not tapping. Not trembling. Just still. Too still. Like she was holding something in, something sharp. The soldier watched from the doorway, unseen. He'd spent the last hour talking with medical. No signs of physical harm. No visible wounds. But the nurse said something strange. She flinched when we touched her left wrist. There's no bruise. No break. Just fear. He looked at the X-ray. Her bones were fine. But fear doesn't show up on film. He sat beside her. Didn't speak. Just set down a flashlight between them, small, red-lensed, used for reading maps at night. Its glow pulsed gently on the floor like a heartbeat. Lily stared at it. Then, after a long silence, she whispered. They told me if I screamed, they'd take him too. Her voice was a thread, soft, unraveling. I thought if I stayed quiet, they'd forget. The soldier looked at her wrist. Did they tie you down? She didn't answer. Just looked at her hand. Slowly opened it. Inside was a tiny object, no bigger than a coin. A button. Plastic. Cracked. From the boy's jacket. I kept it, she said. In case he forgot me. The soldier blinked hard. You held it the whole time? She nodded. It made my hand not feel empty. Outside, lightning flashed. Rain returned, sudden and angry. The shelter shook under the wind. He reached for her hand, gently, like asking permission. She let him. And for the first time, her fingers moved. She squeezed. Only once. But enough. Then she said something he didn't expect. They had a list. He froze. A list of what? Names. She looked up, eyes wide. But not real names. Just letters. He felt the blood drain from his face. Do you remember any? She nodded, closing her eyes. M.P.W. 6. She paused. N.B.W. 7. He scribbled it down. Code names. Probably initials. Ages? The warehouse had 3 beds. One was empty. She was FW5, maybe? He stared at the note. BW7. Another child. Still missing. Still out there. Later that night, Lily fell asleep. The flashlight still pulsed between them. The boy rolled closer to her in his sleep, one arm falling gently over her shoulder. And for the first time since her return, she exhaled, soft and slow, like the release of something unbearable. The soldier walked outside, into the storm. Let the rain hit his face. Let it remind him he was alive, and that she was too. He looked up at the sky. Whispered. How many more are on that list? And the storm answered with silence. Heavy. Certain. Unforgiving. Somewhere in the night, a van engine started. And somewhere else, another child waited. A hand too still. A name not written. The flood had swallowed the eastern blocks, washing away roads and drawing jagged lines between the living and the forgotten. That morning, the soldier drove east. Through broken fences and dirt-packed streets, where water stains climbed halfway up the houses, a grim marker of where survival ended. He parked beside what used to be a school. The brick was split. The bell tower gone. But it wasn't the ruin that drew his eye. It was the line. Spray-painted on the wall, as with every structure after the flood. Searched, clear. But Lily's file said this was where she was last registered. He walked around back. And saw it. Another door. No mark. No paint. Just a rusted handle, and dried handprints below it. Small. Children's. He forced the door open. The inside was choked with silence. Desks overturned. Boards warped by water. But in the far corner, faint drag marks across the tile. He followed them. To a hatch beneath the floor. Emergency shelter. No one mentioned this. No record in the FEMA logs. He knelt, opened it. The air hit him like a punch, mold, old metal, and something else. Something bitter. He climbed down. Flashlight sweeping. Dust. Beds. Emergency kits opened and abandoned. And on the wall, in faint pencil. B.W.7, still here. He stopped breathing. The code from Lily's memory. Still here. Still waiting? He searched the room. Found torn clothes. A cracked flashlight. A stuffed bear, soaked stiff. And in the corner, a radio. Battery operated. Its red light blinking. Still powered. Still waiting to be answered. He turned it on. Static. Then, beneath the noise. Hello? Still down here. His heart stilled. He pressed the mic. This is Sergeant Hale. Who is this? No answer. Just breathing. Then. Cold. They said they'd come. They said tomorrow. He leaned forward, voice breaking. Are you B.W.7? What's your name? Silence. Then a whisper. Ben. He shot out of the hatch, radio in hand. Signal was weak. Must be routed somewhere. He needed to trace it. Back to whoever was listening on the other side. He climbed the roof, scanning for a dish, a repeater, anything. There, near the broken tower. A camouflage transmitter. Not standard issue. No emergency tag. He followed the wires, to a tree line just beyond the school. Buried under leaves, a power cell. Boot tracks in the mud. Someone had been here. Recently. Keeping the line alive. Keeping him alive. But hidden. He returned to the shelter with fire in his chest. Pushed the notes onto the table. B.W.7 equals Ben. Still somewhere near Sector 4. Still transmitting. Still believing someone is coming. The nurse stared at the files. These aren't evacuation protocols, she murmured. These are holding patterns. The soldier met her eyes. No. They're containment. He entered Lily's room. She was sketching on a napkin with a crayon, slow circles and soft lines. He crouched beside her. Lily, did Ben talk to you? She nodded. Before they moved me, he said. They don't like noise. If you stay quiet, they'll forget you. She pointed at the sketch. It was a map. Not perfect. But the school was there. And beside it, a building shaped like a horseshoe. I saw it when they blindfolded me. I peeked. The soldier stared at the drawing. I think that's where they kept him. Later that night, he marked the real map. Sector 4, flooded, abandoned, unsearched. Because the flood line stopped just before it. Officially, it was unreachable. Unofficially, it was perfect for hiding. No eyes. No oversight. No rescue. He wrote one word in the margin. Tomorrow. Outside, the rain had finally stopped. But the ground still dripped. And beneath that flood line, someone waited. Not for hope. Not for rescue. Just for someone to listen. She arrived in a black car, shiny, silent, unmarked. Not military. Not civilian. Something in between. She stepped out slowly, her heels clicking against the wet gravel. Gray suit. Pressed collar. A clipboard clutched loosely in her hand, like it weighed nothing. But her eyes. Too still. Too calm. Like someone watching the end of a show they already knew the ending to. The soldier met her in the hallway. She smiled. Not warm. Not cruel. Just professional. Like a customer service agent asking about your pain while preparing to hang up. You're Sergeant Hale? Yes. I'm from Central Liaison. We're assisting in the post-evacuation review. He didn't shake her hand. She didn't flinch. They sat in the makeshift operations room. Files spread across the table. Ben's name. Lily's sketch. Radio recordings. She flipped through them like old menus. Not surprised. Not shocked. When she got to Lily's file, she paused. Tapped the page. Sensitive case. Better left to trauma specialists. He leaned forward. Do you know what B.W.7 means? Her smile didn't move. But her fingers stopped tapping. I'm afraid I can't disclose personnel coding. It's not personnel, he snapped. It's a child. She looked up slowly. Sergeant, you're very close to this. That compromises clarity. He stared. Hard. She said they had a list. You said the list doesn't exist. So which is it? The smile returned, just a hair sharper. I think we're done for today. She stood, straightened her blazer, and walked out. No rush. No shame. Just exit. Like a curtain falling. That night, the soldier called his contact at Regional Dispatch. What do you know about a woman from Central Liaison? A pause. You mean the one with the teeth? What? That's what people call her. Always smiling. Doesn't blink. Shows up after floods, fires, big messes. Never on record. You're telling me she's not official? Never leaves a name. But the locals call her the filter. She's there to keep things from spilling. He hung up. Stomach twisted. Back at the shelter, Lily sat beside the boy, humming softly. A lullaby, off-key, almost whispered. She stopped when he entered. "You talked to her," she said quietly. He nodded. "She smiled too much," Lily added. "She always does," he replied. The flashlight between them flickered. Dimmed. Then brightened. She looked at him. "He's not dead, is he?" "No." "Then why are they pretending he is?" He had no answer. Just the weight in his chest. He looked at her sketch again, the horseshoe-shaped building. The child's map. The woman had glanced at it, and skipped the page. Not because she didn't understand it. Because she already knew. In the middle of the night, he pulled out the documents she'd tried to take. Cross-checked locations. Found 3 previous shelters with the same floor plan. All marked, evacuated, before the disaster. But no survivor lists. No names. No photos. Just numbers. Just letters. He turned the map. And wrote one word at the bottom. Filter. He didn't sleep. The rain returned, soft now, like memory. And somewhere, under an old roof, a boy still whispered into a blinking red radio. Waiting for a voice. Any voice. Not filtered. Not smiling. Just real. The next morning, the soldier drove north. Past the lines of relief trucks. Past the checkpoints that waved him through because of his badge, not because they trusted him. He was headed for the archives. The real ones. Buried in the basement of a building no one remembered, dry enough to avoid the flood, forgotten enough to avoid the lies. He had one goal. Find the names. Not the new ones. Not the ones printed on cleaned-up lists handed out to press and donors. The original names. Before they were changed. Before they were scrubbed. The clerk barely looked up as he walked in. Older man. Greasy glasses. Smelled like dust and tape. "What are you looking for?" "Evacuation logs. Sector 4. 10 days before the flood." The man sighed, muttered something about red tape, and motioned him to the back. "Cabinet C. If it hasn't been pulled." He opened the drawer. Empty. Except for one file. Thin. Too thin. He opened it, a single page. Typed. Clean. And at the bottom, a familiar name. Ben Walters, status, evacuated. He stared at it. No address. No date of evacuation. Just, status. Just a lie. He searched for Lily next. Her last name had been removed. Only, Lily, minor, found. No parents. No emergency contact. Just found. As if she grew from the rubble like a weed. He pulled older logs. 7 years back. Cross-referenced. Found a match. Same street. Same shelter. Same family name. But the child's name then wasn't Ben Walters. It was Benjamin Kessler. A child of undocumented parents. Living off the grid. His name had been given to him. By someone else. A new file. A new story. Erased, rewritten, sealed. The soldier sat back. The realization sank in like ice. Ben didn't exist. At least, not officially. The system had made him disappear. Not through force. But through paper. Back at the shelter, he showed Lily the pages. Her eyes narrowed. "That's not his name." "I know. Why would they lie?" He sat beside her. They needed the room. The budget. The silence. She looked at the page again. "He told me once, that his name didn't fit. That it felt itchy. She ran her fingers along the edge of the paper. Maybe that's why he never says it out loud. That night, he scanned the logs into his tablet. Sent them to a friend in data recovery. An old tech from the intelligence unit. He replied an hour later. Half of these files have matching documents under other agencies. You've stumbled into a merge zone. What's that mean? It means these kids weren't just lost, they were redirected. A merge zone. Where a flood of names meets a wall of silence. Where one boy becomes two. Where one truth becomes a statistic. The soldier returned to the sketch. The horseshoe-shaped building. He now knew its real name. Facility 9B. Decommissioned years ago. But used unofficially for holding minors in transition. No cameras. No records. Just beds. Locks. And staff trained to never ask questions. He circled it on the map. This time with red. Not as a target. As a promise. The next morning, Lily stood at the window. Drawing shapes in the fog on the glass. She didn't look at him as she asked. When we find him, will he remember? The soldier thought about the radio. The whisper. The voice that never called out for rescue, just waited. I think he never forgot. Lily nodded. Her fingertip paused on the glass. She wrote a name. Not Ben. But Benjamin. His real name. No longer changed, dusk fell like a bruise across the sky, purple and heavy, smeared with smoke and fading sirens. The soldier waited by the field road behind the warehouse district, his engine running low, radio silent. The coordinates Lily had drawn matched something old, a transfer route once used by contractors to move non-prioritized evacuees. Except they weren't evacuees. And they weren't being moved. A truck pulled out from a back gate, not a military convoy, not disaster relief. Just a white box van with no markings. Same model from the sketch. Same hum. Same back door, secured from the outside. He followed. Lights off. Head low. The road curved through dead cornfields, abandoned trailers, cracked pavement swallowed by weeds. They were heading west. Away from the safe zones. Away from the camps. He called it in. No answer. No one picked up. Even his emergency line was under review. They'd pulled his clearance. He was on his own. The van turned onto a gravel road flanked by trees. Branches scraped the roof of his Jeep like warning fingers. He slowed. Saw the rear lights flicker. Brake. Signal. Brake again. It stopped. He killed his engine and stepped out, moving low, boots sinking in the mud. Then the door of the van creaked open. Someone stepped out. Thin. Tall. Hooded. Not military. Not civil. Just, gray. He heard a voice inside. A boy's voice. Faint. Muffled. Not crying. Just humming. Like a lullaby underwater. He stepped forward. Too fast. The man by the door snapped his head up, startled. Eyes met. Hands moved. Flash of a radio. The soldier ran. Tackled him before the call could go through. Gravel. Blood. A groan. The van rocked. The voice inside grew louder. Is someone there? He wrenched the keys from the man's belt and threw open the back of the van. Inside, cages. Not metal, but wood and mesh. Like dog carriers. In one, curled like a question mark, was Ben. Or Benjamin. Dirty shirt. Dried lips. But eyes wide open. Not afraid. Just watching. The soldier reached in. Ben. It's me. The boy didn't move. Didn't blink. Just whispered. Are you real this time? He nodded, throat tightening. I'm real. He lifted him out, light as air. The boy clung to his shoulder, whispering one phrase. She smiled too. Again and again. She smiled too. He turned. The hooded man was gone. Slipped into the trees. A siren howled in the distance, not coming closer. Just echoing like a ghost. He got them back in the jeep and drove fast, silent. No headlights. Just instinct. Behind them, the van sat like an open secret. Forgotten by the system that built it. Back at the shelter, Lily ran to the door before he parked. She didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just opened her arms. Ben slid out of the passenger seat and into her without a word. They stood there, two silhouettes under a broken porch light. Her hand touched his. He didn't flinch. He whispered, "You waited." She whispered, "You came back." The soldier stood behind them. Eyes stinging. No orders. No protocol. Just quiet. And in that quiet, the world seemed to pause. Like it was waiting for someone to finally say, enough. Inside, he logged everything. Van plate. Coordinates. Photos. Sent it to 5 reporters, 2 lawyers, and 1 old friend at internal review. Only one replied. You just made a target of yourself. He didn't sleep that night. Neither did the kids. They sat at the window, drawing shapes in the condensation. This time, together. One word stayed visible longer than the rest. Free. And under it, a second word, written by a soldier's trembling finger. Found. The recorder was old, army surplus, battered silver shell, duct tape on the side. He found it in a locked box beneath his bunk, a relic from his first tour, buried under resignation papers and half-written letters he never sent. But tonight, it would speak. Not to remember war. But to prove what was done in peace. He placed it on the table, pressed record, and set it between them, Ben, Lily, and himself, in the half-lit shelter office. The only light came from a desk lamp with a flickering bulb, like a heartbeat refusing to quit. Ben sat cross-legged, eyes on the red light blinking softly. Lily sat beside him, hands folded, thumb brushing a folded paper between her fingers. The soldier cleared his throat. Softly. Gently. Ben. I want you to tell me what you remember. Only if you want to. The boy nodded. Silence. Then. She told me not to make noise. That they only moved kids who didn't scream. His voice cracked on the word moved. They said we were lucky. That the water skipped us. But then the van came. Lily reached out, touched his wrist. Ben went on. They didn't say where we were going. Just that we were going somewhere better. But it wasn't. It was cold. It smelled like bleach. And sometimes, there were other kids. Then fewer. Then none. He glanced up at the recorder. She was there, too. The woman with the smile. She said my name wrong. What did she call you? The soldier asked. Ben Walters. That's not your name, is it? No, he said. It never was. The soldier pressed stop. He didn't cry. He simply turned the tape over, labeled it, original statement, and slid it into a padded envelope. He made 5 copies. One went to the DA. One to the press. One to a federal agency still owed a favor. And one. He sealed in a box and mailed to an address he hadn't touched in years. His brother. An attorney. The last one in the family still willing to believe in him. Later that night, Lily approached him with something folded in four. A drawing. Crayons on the back of an old checklist. It showed the van. The cage. And two shadows holding hands. A tall one stood beside them, with something red in his hand. The blinking light. The recorder. She didn't say a word. She didn't have to. The next morning, he was called in. 2 agents. Plain suits. Blank expressions. They didn't offer coffee. Didn't sit. Just asked. Where did you get the boy? From a van. Do you know what facility he came from? Yes. Do you know who signed the intake form? He paused. Then said it. The woman with the smile. They didn't react. They just nodded. As if they already knew. As if they'd just been waiting for someone to say it out loud. The agent opened a file. Laid it out. Photos. Handwriting samples. Redacted reports. Then, a still image. From a security camera. Blurry. But unmistakable. The woman. Leading Ben out of the flood zone. Before any rescue teams arrived. She wasn't reacting. She was waiting. He leaned back. The agent slid over a new sheet. Do you recognize this? It was a permit. Signed by a now-suspended logistics officer. Authorizing emergency youth relocations 3 weeks before the flood. The date circled in red. Before it rained. He handed over the tape. The agent listened. No reaction. Then reached into his case and took out another, different brand, newer model. This was recovered from the van. He pressed play. Ben's voice came through, faint, tinny, terrified. Please. I'll be quiet. Just don't make me disappear. Then a woman's voice. We didn't take you. We redirected you. Click. End. The soldier's fists clenched. But the agent looked him in the eye. We have what we need. Will it stop? No. Will it matter? The agent stood. That depends who listens. That night, Ben asked if the blinking red light meant truth. The soldier knelt beside him and said. It means someone is finally listening. Ben smiled. For the first time. Not wide. Not for show. Just a little curve. A signal. Like the flicker of hope in a dark room with one working bulb. And that red light kept blinking. One truth at a time. Morning didn't arrive all at once. It came in fragments, the scrape of a chair, the hum of an old heater, the crack of sunlight through the office blinds. The soldier hadn't slept. Not really. He sat in the folding chair near the shelter's main hallway, coffee gone cold in his hands, eyes fixed on a hallway where 2 children slept behind a donated curtain. Then came the knock. 3 taps. Soft. Rehearsed. He opened the door. 2 federal agents stepped in, same blank suits, but this time, they were followed. By the woman with the smile. She didn't look like a ghost anymore. She looked tired. Pressed hair. Faded lipstick. No warmth in her cheeks. She carried a file, thick and taped along the edges. Her hands trembled, just slightly, where the red ink bled through her fingernails. I've come to testify, she said. The soldier didn't move. One of the agents spoke, she's invoking federal whistleblower status. The woman nodded, not to him, but to the hallway. Tell the girl I remember her song. The one she hummed when she thought no one was listening. He stared at her, his face unreadable. Then finally. She wasn't singing. She was holding her breath. They brought her inside. Ben and Lily didn't come out, but they were awake, watching from behind the curtain. Ben whispered, is she going to lie again? Lily shook her head slowly. Not today. They took the woman's statement in the dining room, table cluttered with crayons, broken forks, and a military-issued recorder. She named names. Disclosed files. Dates. Signatures. Van routes. She pointed out the phrase that was used in all documents. Disaster evacuated orphans of low retrieval priority. She said it like poison. Said it while crying. The soldier watched her through the glass. He didn't feel rage. Just a slow uncoiling. Like a knot in his chest was finally giving way to something heavier than anger. Truth. The thing he'd fought for in combat, and now again in silence. When she finished, she reached into her coat and pulled out something strange. A red ribbon. Faded. Torn. She laid it on the table. She wore this. The little girl before Ben. Her name was Kira. The agents asked, "Where is she?" She didn't answer. Just whispered. She was the one who did scream. That night, Lily asked if she could keep the ribbon. The soldier handed it to her without a word. She tied it around her wrist. Not like jewelry. More like a vow. The next morning, everything moved fast. Court orders. National headlines. Radio silence broken by 1,000 voices suddenly remembering what they'd forgotten. The town turned. The system cracked. The parents listed on Ben's file? Arrested. 2 mayors. Indicted. The warehouse? Sealed and declared a federal crime scene. And the girl with the red ribbon? She drew a new picture. Of Kira. Floating, not drowning. The soldier testified the following week. The courtroom was packed. Not with cameras. Not with soldiers. But with silence. A silence that held names. Faces. Ghosts. Children with numbers for names. When he stepped down from the stand, Lily passed him a note folded into a star. Inside, a single sentence, written in pencil. You made daylight come back. After the hearing, they asked what he wanted in return. Promotion? Commendation? Reinstatement? He said only one word. Closure. They didn't understand. But Ben did. So did Lily. And somewhere, maybe Kira too. On the last page of his statement, he didn't sign his name. He just wrote. A soldier who stayed. And beneath it, in the careful handwriting of a child. And 2 who survived. Daylight filtered through the courtroom windows that afternoon. Not glaring. Just enough. Just enough to see what had always been there. 2 children. A ribbon. A taped recorder. And a soldier no longer running point 1 year later. There's a stretch of road just outside town, where the woods meet the ruins of what used to be the overflow zone. No one built there anymore. Except him. The building was simple, concrete, steel frame, one long hallway that echoed when kids laughed or cried or tapped their fingers on the painted brick walls. Above the door, carved in hand-painted wood. The place we call safe. Not a shelter. Not the shelter. We. Because they built it together. Ben was the first to move in. He helped stack the bricks, even though the bricks were already stacked. He just wanted to be part of it. Lily painted the walls in soft orange and green, adding tiny suns in corners no one would notice unless they looked carefully. She called them escape lights. The soldier lived in the back room. No rank. No uniform. Just Mr. James now. He taught the children how to listen for lies. How to find the quiet ones in a loud room. And how to use a flashlight, even when there's still daylight. Because sometimes, the dark is hiding in plain sight. There was a bulletin board by the door. On it. Drawings. Notes. Crayon letters. A ribbon, pinned delicately with a single silver tack. Below it all, a small plaque. Engraved in tiny letters. Nowhere is outside the rescue zone. Reporters came. Asked their questions. Took their photos. They left confused. No one posed. No one smiled too wide. But they always left quiet. Like something sacred was being held there. Like they'd walked into a story they weren't meant to finish. One rainy afternoon, Lily brought him a box. Inside, the old recorder. Still working. Still blinking red. He stared at it for a long time before pressing play. A voice came through, young, trembling. They took her. Then silence. He didn't stop it. He let it play out, like a prayer. The next day, a girl arrived. No name tag. No suitcase. Just quiet. She sat by the window, watching the rain draw lines on the glass. Ben gave her a blanket. Lily gave her a ribbon. James gave her a flashlight. She held it in both hands. Didn't ask why. Didn't need to. In the back office, there's a map on the wall. Big. Faded. Warped by old flood lines. But now covered in tiny red dots. Each dot means a child found. A truth told. A place remembered. He doesn't cross them out. He just adds more. And sometimes, when no one's looking, he picks up the recorder. Not to document. Not to testify. Just to remember. He clicks it on. Waits. Breathes. Then whispers. They didn't disappear. They were just waiting to be found. Outside, children run. Rain falls. Footsteps echo down the long hallway, fading into laughter. One draws suns in corners. One makes stars out of paper. And one, smallest of all, finds a ribbon on the floor. And ties it around her wrist. Because in this place, no one is ever forgotten. Not anymore.